You okay, Vern? Look a little crooked, huh? Okay. Well, hello again, guys. As you can probably tell by my attire, it's a little chilly outside. Snow's blowing, the wind is just gusting, so it's a great day to be in the shop. Now, as I've mentioned, but you have seen no proof of it, we have a 292 engine swap project going on for my 81 crew cab, and I'm just trying to get all the parts and pieces necessary together to get that project completed once the engine goes back in. And no less important than anything else is our fuel system and our intake. Now, ultimately, what I thought I would just love to do is a 4-barrel intake, maybe put a Holley Sniper or some such thing on. Actually, well, we'll get into the actually later. For the meantime, not wanting to spend $500 to $800 just on an intake, you know, I thought I'd just slap the old 1-barrel back on and go on our way. However, I got to thinking, got to reading, got to studying, as a guy is wont to do, and decided in the meantime I would really like to put a small bore Rochester 2-jet on the thing. Make that thing open up, give its lungs some good capacity, and just let it breathe and see if we can get some good performance. I'm going to turn you around here and show you what we got and what we're going to attempt to do. This is our intake off of the 292 that's going into the pickup. As you can see, it has been highly brazed and repaired and so forth. So I really don't feel too bad about modifying this thing. As I said, to buy Offenhauser or an Aussie, whatever they call it, Australian 4-barrel intake, it's going to cost you somewhere between $500 to $700, $800, I don't know, just to get your intake. And then there's the problem of over-fueling the thing. We're talking about a 292 after all. And so, yeah, you can get adapter plates actually for your 4-barrel intake to neck it down to 2-barrel. If you went the Holley Sniper road, then yeah, it regulates your fuel, you know, so you're not going to be over-fueling the thing. And actually, Holley, if you do a little research and start looking around on their website, they have a lot of 1-barrel and 2-barrel options in the Sniper line, which is pretty cool. And ultimately, that would be really, really neat for a truck the way that I want to use this truck. That would be kind of ideal. But then you're talking another $1,500 to $2,000 for that. So, what are we going to do? I would really like to modify this thing to receive a Rochester 2G carburetor and put that on there. This should be, I'm having a little trouble, I need to do a little more in-depth research, but this should be off of a 283 from a 64 Impala, if I remember where this thing came from. The number checks that out. I need to look into applications on this number, but I just need to sit down at the laptop and do that, and I haven't done that yet. But this should be, this is the small bore, 1 3/8 bores, I believe, roughly, and that'll give us quite a bump up in the available air and fuel mixture going to this thing. Now, as for over-fueling the thing, you got to be careful. You can't just take it, well, you can take any carburetor and put it on any engine, and it might run somewhat, but there's a very real possibility of over-fueling, as I stated. I have another 2GC, actually, with an electric choke, and that would be ideal, but I'm pretty sure that probably came off of late 70s 350. Way too much carburetor, and that's the large bore also. Way too much carburetor for a 292. I have read from a source that I think is pretty trustworthy online. I want to say it was the Carburetor Doctor, and you can look at his website, and whoever, I don't know the guy, never talked to him personally, but there seems to be a bit of knowledge about carburetors there behind him, and I think it was from him in a forum that I read, if you are swapping carburetors around, you want to stay within 3% of your cubic inch. So if I'm taking a carburetor off of something else and putting it on a 292, I want to be within 3% CID of a 292. So 1% of a 292 is 2.92. And let's take that times 3. That's going to be under 9. Times 3, it's 8.76. Basically 8 3/4 cubic inches. 8 3, let's take that, 292 minus 8.76, 283.24. So less than 3% difference between a 283 and a 292, just a little bit less. We're basically right there in the sweet spot of having the right tune, the right jets and so forth in this carburetor to just take it off of a 283 and plop it on a 292. So, feeling really good about that, if indeed this is what I believe it is. So, I am going to go, I have to get a rebuild kit for this, but I can go off of these dimensions now and make a base plate for our intake. Okay, my apologies for the overhead light noise. They're buzzing away, and that's just how it is in here. Heater may come on also, I don't know. We're just gonna have to live with it. So I'm at Dad-in-law's fab shop, and I'm at the mill here, and I really can't find much that I need. This end mill is only, I don't know, 1/2 inch, 5/8. That's the biggest one I can find. That's fine, we'll get it done with that. We're just gonna go slow anyway. My digital readout, everything just says no signal. That's fine. Don't need that. But we are just gonna do our best here. May take a little while. This is what we have so far. You can see underneath all the brazing, and there must have been some, is nickel really hard? I don't even know. Nickel rod. Anyway, I really don't know what would have done this. It was just a failure from the foundry, but anyway, we uncovered a big old hole. That much is obvious, I suppose. I went to the other shop and I cut a piece of aluminum 1/2 inch thick, 5 by 4 1/4 inches. That 4 1/4 pretty much meets my dimensions this way, and 5 should be more than enough for the width of our carburetor. We may even want to trim it down a little bit. Well, I mean, it's right there. I'm going to leave it at 5. That way we're making sure our gaskets have something to seal to. So, my next step, I'm going to find center, and I am going to drill 2 holes. Let me think about this. My bores are 3 inches overall, and that is going to get into those. So yeah, all I can do is put hardware front and back. So I'm going to start with 2 holes, and the way we're going to seal this, 2 screws should be fine. So I'm going to find my center line this way, and then we will probably 3 inches. So I have 1 1/4 inches to work with. I'll probably drill my holes 1/2 inch in. And that should do it. I'm going to install 1/4 inch flathead machine screws. I've got a 9/32 drill bit in there. That should give us plenty of wiggle room. Oh. Speed doesn't want to bite. And while we're at it, we'll put our countersink for our head in. Now I've placed a good enough center line on our manifold and on our plate, just lining those up through the holes. Not too critical. Could use a transfer punch from an incomplete set, so it's not quite the right size. Oh, are you gonna get me in trouble? That just broke right through that. So what a guy ended up having to do because of our bad spot here, these castings, this has a void, so it has this outer wall and an inner wall, and then below that is your actual air passages. So that being said, I just kept drilling down into that inner wall on both. So I'm gonna have to get maybe 1/2 inch to 1 inch longer bolts, 1/2 inch longer of this style, and that way it will thread all the way through both layers here, and unfortunately this side will just go down into that inner layer. However, I will be using JB Weld to form our gasket between these two, you know, and so I could possibly use that as well, really build this up in here with JB Weld and insert our screw, and that will form threads, and I don't imagine this will ever be taken apart again. I'm going ahead and I'm still using this manifold. I have other ones, but if I can make this one work and work well, then I would still prefer to use this one because it's already bad, and I do not feel any regret at this point moving forward at modifying this thing, right? Because it would be kind of a less desirable item, So, we kind of have that in place now. So now what I want to do is I want to transfer my bores onto here. Center and center. Okay. Well, here's hoping this is going to work. I have an 1.5 annular bit on here. Probably slow that down a little. I'm going to try it. Let's try that. And what I'm hoping I can do, I just go through the aluminum, go through the cast, all in one go. Now that annular cutter apparently was on its last leg. I thought that would just be the cat's meow, you know, to just go right down through the aluminum, the cast, and just have perfect bores. And it did okay, but I'm not going to struggle through another one. But that's okay, because this gives us a chance to try out something that almost anyone might have in their toolbox. And that's just a hole saw, 1.5 hole saw. We'll let you know how it goes. Alright, I am almost done here in this shop with what I need to do. You can see I've stylized it, you know, we might as well give it a little class. So I've done cutouts compared to the intake manifold. I'll come back with a file at home and clean everything up. But I've also had to keep in mind that we don't want to get out of the bounds of the base gasket for the carburetor. So it stayed pretty much as wide, but I could really get some cutouts, and that way it just looks a little better, right? Purely cosmetic. The last thing I'm going to do, since we got a nice drill press here, is I am going to do my mounting studs. I'll get a little more accurate here, but 1.885. Alright, so this guy is going to go in here. Put the screwdriver away already. That's what you get for being efficient, right? Being responsible. Alright, and then guy there, like I say, we'll get longer bolts. You can knock off some sharp corners and certainly round those over if we want. All in all, I think it looks pretty decent. So now I've got to clean up each area where I was working, get all the tools back so the guys know what's going on, kind of hide the evidence, you know what I mean? But otherwise, we're going to run back home and I can clean up a little more, gather some hardware, and see if we can finish this. Okay, now, one or two of you may be thinking, hey guy, you know, they make a 2-barrel to 1-barrel adapter, so you can bolt any old 2-barrel right onto a 1-barrel manifold. And yeah, they sure do, and they're reasonable, and I think they're pretty universal. You can put about anything on anything, you know. But there's a problem, and so I'm going to tell you a little story. It's story time. My first year out of high school, I went to tech school for automotive mechanics, and I made the mistake of staying at a neighboring college's dorms. I ate my meals there, I slept there, but next door was a tech school, and that's where I went to school. Well, some just genius, 18, 19-year-old genius one weekend was trying to organize everyone in the dorm building to flush their toilets at the same moment, thereby causing a massive eruption and breakage of the sewage system. I mean, clearly the guy was a genius, but and I'm sure there was beer involved somewhere in there. But you know, first of all, he failed to consider the fact that if we did that, then 100 guys no longer have a place to go wee-wee, you know. I don't think that, you know, obviously the thinking didn't go that far. But that is the problem with trying to place a 2-barrel onto a 1-barrel intake without doing what I'm doing here, is you are trying to force all the water from all the potties down one single sewage pipe. You're trying to increase your CFM, which we are by using a 2-barrel, but you're still trying to force it down the same size opening. So yeah, I could do that, and yeah, it may perform just a little bit better, but you're just kind of shooting yourself in the foot. You're trying to bust that sewage system out, and you're just not going to be happy. Alright guys, try to ignore Dick Powell there. He's not important right now. I have been a busy little bee since we last checked in on this project. I thought I had some old school, the rest of the engine is, you know, the old school 6-cylinder blue. Apparently I don't have any anymore. I thought I had a little bit in a spray can. I just went ahead and coated it in cast engine paint. So that'll look okay, but I'm going to bring you in here and show you a little bit more in detail our inner chamber here and what you guys think of it, and then we will start putting this together. Now obviously this would originally would have been bolted directly to the exhaust manifold. You would have had an exhaust gasket, a little bit like this, although this is the block off version. You would have had a hole there, you know, and that would warm that inner chamber for the sake of your fuel air mixture, especially on cold days, to warm that mixture up and get you running right. Well, that's now that we drilled into that inner chamber in there, we would obviously have a huge vacuum leak. So we got to block that off, and I just took the block off plate, used that for a pattern, and made out of 1/4-inch steel a block off plate. So that'll get bolted there, and then I have 2 bushings that'll go between down here, because if I just would tighten this down, obviously we would get a hump in the center here, and there again we would have another vacuum leak. So we got to put some material in here to prevent that from happening. Now top side, here's where I've had some indecision, and I think I'm probably just gonna leave it. Don't know if that's a good idea, but especially on this side, we have those warming chambers, and I really don't know what that's gonna do to affect, if anything, affect the performance value of our fuel mixture. I have no doubt we'll get a little bit of some kind of ugly vortex swirl pattern going on in there, but will it really matter? Once the bottom's all sealed off, we're pulling vacuum straight through the carburetor. It's gonna pull it, it's gonna run, it's gonna perform. Does that really matter? I don't know if it does or not. I bought $25 worth of the 10 total ounce package of JB Weld, thinking that I could, if I really cared about it, I could really pack JB Weld in there. I'm sort of the opinion I'm just going to try running it as it is, honestly, and return that. I don't know. I want to hear what you guys have to say. If anyone out there thinks that would be a problem, this is all an experiment, really. And if it works, it works. If it doesn't, no big loss, right? Caliente, caliente. These things are a little spicy. I've Had them right in front of the heater out there. Woo! Rust-Oleum, you know. Oh, man, that is hot! Wow! It's almost like I didn't know what I was saying. Oh, get in there, that's hot. Come on. Come on. Whoop! Now, my thoughts on the screws aren't necessarily, you know, the primary holding thing that is going to keep this thing sealed up and in place. Yeah, it does play a role in that, but primarily my thoughts were that it would index the plate to the manifold, obviously, and make sure it's centered. But also, for this purpose right now, giving us a good squish down for the gasket, quote unquote, that we're making out of JB Weld. It obviously will prevent that thing from separating, keep it in place. Seems to be doing pretty good. Holy cow, my mic just fell off. Alright. Well, guys, that's going to do it. We got a good squish with our JB Weld between the two pieces. So I have no doubt that that's going to seal up really nice. I may be able to squeak by with our crankcase ventilation fitting there. Other than that, I think we are pretty well good to go. Now, these ended up being different screws than I originally was going off of. So the angle's a little different. They stand just a little bit proud. So that's just a matter of sanding those down, filing those down a little bit, and then they will be nice and flush. And I need that. This just barely overlaps the edges of the screws a little bit. That should do it. Well, guys, there you go. Now, there is nothing that I have done in this video that you cannot do at home in your garage with basic tools. You might want at least a handheld power drill, hacksaw files, whatever. Not that I expect many guys out there to be doing the kind of things that I'm doing. You know, we're rolling old school here. And trying to get a little more power into this 292, and I've heard that the two barrels kind of help them breathe just a little bit better. The word on the street is that's a thing. So there we go. Even a hole saw, that actually worked excellent for going through the aluminum and the cast iron. There was no problem there. So there you go. Tell me what you think. Not 100% happy with the way the inner chamber ended up. We could do something about it. Maybe, maybe not. Another option out there is on eBay. I believe it's sold through Mr. Hot Rod. He has his own website, or whoever it is. And I think he also sells it on eBay. I don't think it's 12 bolt, 12bolt.com, but I could be wrong. Maybe both places. But you can buy just the flange, a kit of just the flanges, and then you can get material and weld up your own manifold in whatever configuration and size and carburetor you want to make it. That's another budget-friendly option that I have considered, but I wanted to try this first with basically a manifold that was garbage anyway, right? And I think we accomplished that. We'll see how it works. You let me know what you think. Now, as far as the carburetor, once again, we got this off of mid-60s 283. I have a kit coming, and we will rebuild that. I have not done a video on doing a two jet, so we'll get that, and that will be one of the last missing pieces for the 292 swap on the 81 crew cab. Then we can get that engine in, weather permitting, and it's going to be fun. I hope it works. Hey, thank you so much, guys, for joining me. God bless you. See you on the next one. Bye-bye. What do you think, Dick? Dick doesn't care. He's in an even better car. Oh well.